So, big old Bondo Pontiac here. I think maybe some of you guys saw the video before where the trunk lid was all whaled. We did this one, the trunk lid, well, the whole back of the car was basically here, as I recall. Somewhere in here. Built there, no?
Oh yeah.
Center, at least?
Somewhere, yeah.
How far up was this quarter crunched?
It went, I know that it went way over to the passenger side.
Yeah.
The whole thing got shunted over.
Yeah, it was forward and shunted. And then, before it got hit, it already had lower panels welded on. It had, it had a big seam up here. I think it had like a quarter put on it at one point, then a lower panel put on it at one point. And then the frame guy, the frame guy decided to weld a piece of quarter on top of the quarter on the back here instead of doing it right.
Yeah, the dude overlap patched it.
And
it was awesome.
We ain't finding parts of this thing. So, I mean, not to say we won't look in the future, but right now Jay wants it on the road. So we have molded a quarter panel. And if any of you ever had a problem with body lines when you're finishing a panel, and I mean, I think we all have, when you start working down through a long body line like this, it's really easy to get wonky. When you're trying to do one basically completely out of fill, it's really easy to get wonky. So I do two tricks on this, and I'm trying them both at the same time. I'll spray a little guide coat on the Bondo, and I'll put this tape line. And you can see here, I've been cutting down the tape line. And it does help to keep the line nice and straight. I'm going to work everything from the top. And then once I get the top where I like it, I will re-put tape up here and I'll work everything from the bottom up to it. You should end up with a pretty good line. And then when we start block sanding fill primer, we can do the same thing. See, I'm going to catch the edge of that tape just a little bit. And if I start taking that tape where you're seeing the line wander on the tape, we have to quit. But as you can see, like that, like look here, we're kind of all over the place. Up here, the way we're filled, when I get this first one done, it's not going to be perfect. We're going to catch it from the bottom. Eventually the tape may come off and we may do a little dressing, but we're gonna use this to get our main first line done. What we did on this panel before, last weekend, we bondoed it and we had it pretty straight, pretty shaped in. Kind of vaguely had an idea on this line, and we had 3 or 4 coats of Bondo. So we had a bunch of areas where it was feather edging in. And as that stuff all cures, it'll start to, it'll change, it'll shrink a little bit because we never have exactly the same mix. And you can eventually start seeing lines, you know, where your different layers came together. So usually I skim coat it when I get done. So that's what this is. So we're not trying to shape a lot here other than this body line. But this is the way to do it. It helps you a lot. I don't guess there's a magic bullet to any of this, but this is just, you gotta use your head, you gotta have a little eye for it, and then do this to help you. Because you can really, boy, if you start chasing a wave, you're gonna just, it's like running a bulldozer. I've done that in the past life too, where you're trying to level something. If you start trying to chase a hump, boy, you're just gonna ride that thing. And you'll end up with a set of waves. It's the same as this. Up here, we just work our way to it nice and easy. We'll work our way from the bottom up nice and easy. And maybe go back and forth a couple times before we're done, but it gives us a real good start. You see that big hump there? That gives you one good illustration of what you can get into. We'll take that hump down. It's not even a lot. But that was for real hump that would really show on you. So. I'll work my way down through here the rest of the way. I don't have a lot left. Then we'll put the tape on top. Do a little video of that. And when we pull the tape off, we'll grab a little shot. And then when we start sanding from the bottom, we'll grab a little shot. Kind of give everybody a pretty good idea of what we're doing. But this panel is pretty heavy steel and it has enough fill on it. I can be a little bit ignorant sanding it and crowd the board a little bit without worrying about pushing the panel in. I think this poor thing has seen the varmint a time or two. See, I'm kind of concentrating this spot here. When you do that, it's not all good, so you want to pull back and kind of cut everything globally, just so you don't end up making a hollow. The other thing I can do too here, if I'm worried about it, there's a little ridge there. I might not try and take it all out because it's pretty straight. Worst case scenario, you get a little edge there you can feel. Worst case scenario, we can put a little spot putty in that or something, or a lot of it will come out with the filler primer because it's not super deep. We'll see. We'll work from the bottom. We'll maybe go back and forth a few times. It may come out too. But if I start really pushing the issue right now, and you see the quarter crowns here, I'm going to end up with a flat spot here, which will look ugly. I'm afraid I'm already kind of flirting with that, so I think I'm going to stop. And I mean, we could put a little fill in there, or we could just do it after with spot fill, whatever. Doesn't make any difference how we do it, as long as we do it. But is something you do need to look out for. If all I worry about is the line and I forget about everything around it, I'll end up with a nice line with a flat spot. So we do have to respect that crown that's there. All right, we'll come back to it after. Just put this other line, this other tape right beside the line I already had. And pull that other one off. And stand up to that. I mean, we should end up with a pretty darn straight line here. Not to say it'll be perfect. We may have some slight tweaks to do when we board sand our spray fill. That spray fill, I can lay it on there pretty thick. It'll fill in. Like, I can leave this 40 grit if I want to and use the spray fill. I wouldn't suggest doing that if you're in a hurry, because that stuff's going to shrink and you're going to see the scratch marks come up after a bit. See there, Jay? See what that is? That's not getting your fill mixed. Okay.
So that's an air bubble in the mix?
Not an air bubble. It's a doughy bubble from stuff that hasn't been mixed. So you don't want to leave that.
You're quick to blame.
Well, it may have been me did it. I'm not really blaming. I'm just saying, like, we need to fix it. Okay. I mean, we may end up putting a little fill in here when we're done, but we can fix this without really bothering us too much. I just want to get all that shit out of there. The other thing you want to do too is peel back a little bit, because I may have some doughy stuff underneath. What'll happen is that's going to be one of those spots that show later. Everybody's paranoid about body filler. Honest to God, I've had body filler on cars for 30 and 40 years now that never moved. But if you let shit like that go, body filler's bad. So, I'm going to go up to this tape. That'd be easier standing. I got a 2-year-old horse I really like, but man, he jerked my shoulder out. From this side, I'll use the other arm. Now you see, metal. We gotta quit. This is what we're working with these patches. These guys overlapped, and it's giving us trouble. But it is what it is. Maybe someday we'll find, this is a Canadian car, so finding sheet metal is damn near impossible. Canadian Pontiac's a little different than American Pontiac. Go figure. The only good thing is they have Chevy motors, but we got to, if we ever get it, somewhere up the road, anybody ever stumbles across a set of quarters or a rust-free body or something, we're going to start hoarding parts, save the day when we need them. But, I mean, Jay's putting a big motor in here. He can't drive for shit. He's likely to hit something. So,
No, I think the car's cursed.
blame the car. I was all ready to go work horses, not do this. And Ty sidetracked me. You're getting to be a nuisance. When I get around to doing my car, I'm going to put you into debtor's prison and slave labor.
I don't really have a choice.
I'll come back and finish down here after, but see, that's coming now. We're getting there. I'm afraid, seeing this metal here, we've got that little hole there. So, like that spot I was talking about leaving, I can guarantee you we're leaving. We'll have to just either retouch it with a little fill or worry about it with spot putty later. But since we have this spot to fix, that kind of tells me we're going to mix up a little bit of body filler, and we'll touch that and touch this at the same time. Now I will sometimes go straight, even though I told you not to get my line. But like, it's the same idea as when I'm digging here. You gotta, if you work this a little bit and work around it, to kind of blend everything, So like here, if I go straight a little bit, and I'm not dead straight, but I'm fairly straight. So I'm gonna go back down and do that. And here I'll try cutting a few straight lines to finish that edge. But then I'll have to work my way down, It's, if you sit there in one spot, you're gonna make low spots. But you can't do that. I think we're gonna have a little spot right there. We'll have to just put this here maybe. See? I don't know how good it's going to show on film from before and now, but that black guide coat is still there in a nice straight line. And what we'll do, we have this really nice, let's say. If it's a little bit edgy, we can just go over it with a piece of hand paper and just, you see, there's a low spot there. Now that everything's off, like we definitely have to do a little fill right there. Like this is still black, but it's not really a big deal. But this area here, we're lacking material. sand this down here first. Get all this molded in case we need some fill there, but then however that works. And like here, I've got this little area, this little bunch of stuff that's not done. I take the edge of my board or a screwdriver or something. I want to scratch that out. When I put body filler, it's going to adhere. If I put body filler over an area that's not sanded, it could separate there real easy. Same as your metal. If your metal is really smooth, you want to rough that metal up with something so that Bondo can get in there and bind and dig in and hold, because it needs something to, any little edges, scratches, marks you can get for that stuff to hang into is good. So that's why I always clean it. And too, like Bondo, when it dries, it's gonna glaze over a little bit on top, and stuff will not stick to it. If I put filler on this paint right here, you can just take it right off like nothing. So if you want it to go on there and last, really like clean metal or epoxy prime it, and then rough your epoxy primer up. It'll hang on to that real good too. But I like bare metal, really roughed up. If it's really roughed up and the filler adheres properly, moisture doesn't go. Well, as I was saying before, I was thinking I was going to dig this flat if I kept digging, and sure enough I have. You run your hand over it now, it's as crooked as a politician with a mail-in ballot, so we got to do something with that before it goes too far. So now what I'm going to do is, like, down here is nice. This is good. I'm happy with this. Happy enough. But find the end of the tape here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just recover this upper area here. Because there's a line in here, a pretty distinctive line, and if I kept trying to take it out, it was going to get worse and worse and worse. It crowns all right, so before I get into trouble, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing. So what I'll do, I'll put this tape down here below the line, which will stick. I'm going to try and keep my line good, because I got a pretty nice line now. Not saying we won't have to massage it a bit when we do the spray fill and stuff, but blocking. You always got to keep watching these things. But it's pretty good. It'll work. So now I'm just going to put a skim coat of fill kind of along here. There's a little hole here in this thing here, so I'll just kind of skim this little area here. It should work in pretty easy, and then whatever sits over this tape will just peel off. I'll try to just come to the tape, because the line right here is good. Just above it, I've got that spot that I was digging flat. So I've grooved it out so the fill will stick in. We grooved out this spot where the Bondo was doughy to fix that. I'm going to touch a couple of little spots. There's a couple spots where it's just edged off. We've marked them. And we need to actually clean this out. See that, how it's unsanded Bondo? If I put fill on top of that, it's going to want to lift. So we got to clean that up. We got a couple little spots right here. And then there's a couple of little places like here where the metal is sticking through pretty hard. I pecked it in with a hammer. I'll just put a little skim coat on top of that. Because what'll happen is it was fairly straight, but as this stuff dries up, it's going to shrink. You'll end up with a metal lump that shows after a while. Same right here, same deal. And then over here I got a little spot I got to just cheat, because there is fill in this thing from before. We didn't want to strip the whole panel and start all over the place, so I was saying I was having it on bare metal, but I've got to transition into this other stuff. So I'm going right up to the paint line. In here you can see I'm on old fill there. I got a little spot there. If I keep digging at this, I'm going to get it boogered up, so I'm just going to do a little line and a thin skim of it. All this stuff is roughed up. It'll stick. But I wouldn't want to put it on heavy, but it'll just be real thin, and it'll help me work that in. So that's the next step. All right. Like I said, I'll pull it down here pretty thin. I don't want to leave myself a whole lot of sand that I don't need to. I probably could have done this with finishing putty even, but it's almost easier to do it with this. So then that tape, I can just pull the filler off the tape. And we're good there. Shit, I didn't clean that up. You want to clean that up quick, Jeff? You're supposed to be able to do that by hand like a professional YouTube videographer, Jay.
What?
You're supposed to videotape and sand at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was the program. You see, I've only had 1 cup of coffee today.
I've had 4. I'm lit up like Kramer. Giddy up.
So I think if anything, driving through the rain today, I was more of a road hazard than anything.
Why?
I only had 1 cup of coffee. I didn't know what I was doing.
Are you driving a Ford today?
No, I'm in the C30.
Oh, okay.
You didn't hear me pull up.
That's true.
We gotta do lifters on that.
Oh yeah. On the Ford?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, not the Ford. That's the Ford to the Chevy motor.
Oh, you were talking about my dually?
Dually.
No, that needs a wheel bearing.
Your other Ford needs mufflers is what it needs.
Wow. I'm more worried about this guy right now.
This one's got 2 spinny Chinese mufflers.
That's right.
Make turbo noises.
It's gonna work really good.
You think so? It might.
It'll make it quieter.
Ty's gonna be jealous and that blow through carburetor works better than his fuel injection.
I think so too. I was surprised he didn't go carburetor the first time.
I don't think the race car he's in a big hurry to go back to injection.
But you would think after an experience like that on his daily driver, he would stick with a carburetor.
I don't know. I mean, actually, the daily works pretty nice with fuel injection, to be honest with you. It's kind of weird. I just don't like it on the race cars. I like it on the customer cars and stuff. They don't bother me.
Because they don't come back?
Wow, I actually do have to service injection sometimes, but on a daily basis, because they're like not savvy with carburetors and don't start them properly and stuff. Like guys that should know better can flood the freaking carburetor car. Like I don't know how, but anyway, and they're constantly complaining about some little things. Like just run it properly, you got no issue. But it eliminates that for me. So I kind of like the fuel injection for a lot of these guys. I mean, a lot of these guys, I guess they knew enough to work on them and run them properly. They wouldn't be bringing them to me, spending money on me. So I shouldn't say anything. But it's
So then how would you deal with a dead spot in a carburetor?
you can deal with it through timing, you can deal with it through power valve, you can deal with it through a number of things. But that's not the kind of problems I usually have with carburetor customers. It's just like cold start and things like that. They have a hard time, which you just gotta sit there and keep them running if it's a performance carb. But
You mean they just don't understand how to use a carburetor?
they just don't understand how to use carburetor. Those days are long gone. It's a
Do you have a video on how to properly do carburetor?
The Old Man's Garage has a bunch of videos on carburetor. I think there's also a bunch of others online. I've never. We could do one when we do yours, when we do this one, and tune it. Street tune it. We could fiddle with the video. But
Actually, that MSD system is pretty sweet. We can do data logging with that.
yeah. Can you do air fuel?
I believe so, yeah.
We're badly getting off subject here.
Yes.
Back to bodywork. So, there she is. We'll come back to it when we start blocking it. I think this will kind of fetch around whatever's left, the little stuff. Then we're going to 80 grit it, take a little bit of grit out of it, and then we're going to get ready to spray the damn thing. Put the polyester filler to it. Actually, I got a spot there. The polyester filler is, too late. The polyester filler is pretty good stuff. It's like this here. And this is heavy, heavy, heavy. Like, I mean, I'll start cutting this with an 80 grit. I'm gonna do it with a block, not a hand sanding, but I mean, I can cut this and take everything out of it that's an imperfection. And then if I see something major, I'll use Spot Buddy. And I'll throw a finish primer on top of it, sand that. But I'm gonna work on blocking these guys for a while. We're waiting for that. We'll come back to that, because I gotta get these painted this week, so Mr. Pulling Tractor can go and set the world on fire. Alrighty. We let her harden up pretty good. That last coat, sometimes I'll hit Phil kind of doughy, cut it quicker. When I'm doing this skimming, I'll let it harden up pretty good. You can see it comes in pretty easy. I pulled it down there pretty thin. I'm going to start at the top, work my way down. I think we may, that hole we filled, we may not have had enough. We'll see. Feels like coming in good. In the perfect world, I'd like to have a skim coat of the whole panel and not these transitions, but the spray fill will save us. Ain't no way in hell I'm recoating this whole panel for this. That would seem foolish. Especially on this one. I mean, we drug it out of the outhouse. I'm not going to say it went from the outhouse to the penthouse, but it's at least up 2 or 3 floors from where it was.
So what can you get away with spray fill?
A lot, actually.
So like that little low spot that you had there from
this little thing here?
Yeah, can you get away with that?
What I would probably end up doing is just doing a little spot putty in it after.
Okay.
I'll probably leave it. We'll block it. The spray fill will fill it with a touch. And then, and even it's actually coming too, but I don't want to focus on it because I'll get the same problem. You know, if I get worried about that, I'll get it flat here. Because this crowns a little bit, if you look down this whole thing. So you start working one area too much, and you can get it stop signing or flat spots. It doesn't crown a hell of a lot, but I don't know where my long straight edge is.
It's hard to see on this.
Yeah, if I had a long straight edge, I could show you. But that doesn't really show it. But it does have, there's probably, from the center to here, there's probably an inch. In the center of that door, there's an inch, inch and a half. So it's got, you know, about an inch and a half, 2 inches of curvature max. But that is still enough to get you flat spots if you focus on one spot. And, you know, like I said, I've said it before, I think in the video, I'm going to pull back and cut everything around it a little bit to help everything blend. of that. See, that spot's gone now. Pull this off. Look at that. You see that line, eh? How straight it is? And there's a little, just slight edge there. What I do here, I'm a little careful. I try to make sure I don't like go over with the block. It's got this angle. If you come up, you see the board comes off. So I try to keep this same angle. So that way I'm just cutting up the line. Do the same thing to the top, just address it back. I'm just letting the edge of the block run by it just a hair. Looks pretty straight, eh?
I'm trying to move back without tripping on something.
Yep. And that's that. The whole spot, pretty good now. And then now we don't have that. I run my hand over and I don't feel that flat spot. Because before you move you lay your hand nice and flat, you feel it. And you'll feel any little deviation. You can actually feel that there's a slight, it's a contour change is what it is. It wasn't really a hole, but it was a contour change. And that's gone now. I don't feel anything that's odd. Oh, actually look fairly decent. I'll finish cutting the other spots. We'll be ready to knock the grit out of it. And slather it in spray fill. Do a little shot of that when we get doing it. Say good. All right, the big POS Pontiac. Is it POS?
Why would you call it a POS?
What do they call their differential?
The BOP.
BOP, yeah. So see, POS, BOP, I'm thrown off. The POS, the BOP body, you're all insulted, aren't you, Jay?
Well, I don't know. You just called my car a POS there. Like, it means something very different there, Todd.
Look how nice and clean the body line is now. I mean, the tape doesn't lie. Not to mention the fact that this, I mean,
How a POS so clean?
there is no Bondo in this car. None. So we can actually, Jay wants to sell this car. You can say it's Bondo free, because really we didn't use any Bondo products. They were all some other company. But there may be some other plastics in it, but no Bondo. But it's nice and straight now. Looking good. Doesn't really look like a wreck. Come around the back of it. You need to shoot me some pictures of this thing when you bought it. I'll put it on here. Do it then and now. And what's pretty cool about this thing is there's a little piece of sheet metal here that's been replaced, and this piece has been replaced, and the rest of it is pretty much the old bent up stuff that was on the car. We pulled her straight and made a car out of it. This side had a few little hoopty doos on here. Just when it got crunched, it kind of stretched in here a little bit. And other than that,
We did the roof too.
yeah, the roof. I don't know what happened on the roof of this thing.
Apparently, ice fell on it.
Oh, this was after the wreck type thing?
Yeah, that was nothing to do with the wreck. That was
Okay.
just the previous owner being.
Just they parked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had some whammos, little stuff, nothing big. But in this quarter, like I say, it wasn't too bad. It was just in here. But the trunk lid ended up here somewhere before. All this rear end was pushed like up and back. Because these quarter panels, they were, well, this one especially, and this one was out here, right?
Yeah, the whole car got pushed way over.
Kind of shoved over.
Yeah.
So we pulled the trunk lid here and then sent it to the frame shop, and they kind of pulled everything to fit the trunk lid, basically. And then pulled this quarter to sort of fit everything else. and then hog her back together. Got another back bumper, notice the taillights out of something else, and actually it'll make a fairly decent car, considering it was pretty well stuffed.